Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of my weekly watch list. So this is the first watch list I'll be making as an officially funded trader. So I've received my login details for my funded account, and this will be the first week that I'm trading on it. So hopefully it goes well, and then of course I will update you guys as I go along. So first thing I'm going to show is we do have quite a lot of news this week. So normally I don't really show the news, but of course part of that preparation and a few things I've changed my plan. Need to make sure that we're looking at this all the time, and I think it's important for you guys to remember that. So therefore I'm going to show you. So Monday we've got ANZ business confidence, so New Zealand. So we've got quite a lot of New Zealand news this week. So Tuesday we've got CPI, core CPI for the dollar. Wednesday, loads of New Zealand dollar news, some monetary policy statements, so keep an eye on that one. Obviously these are 3 in the morning, so be careful if any positions open. Rate statements, so are they going to give us any clues in terms of what they do with the monetary policy, quantitative easing. Royal National Bank of New Zealand, that is. Press conference as well, be interesting, always causes a stir. But of course, for those of you who might be up, if you live in a sort of different country with a different time, then of course you might sort of be awake in this, whereas most of us sort of from the UK won't be. We've also got the Fed Chair Powell. He's speaking at 2 o'clock on Wednesday. So of course that's going to cause a stir in the dollar. Thursday we've got some Aussie news, some New Zealand news, pound news, dollar news, CAD news. So we've got employment change, unemployment rates. Keep an eye on that because that's likely to be quite high. So that could cause a stir of the Aussie dollar. And it also goes with the idea that I've got of a weak Aussie dollar for this week. So then fundamentals, technicals going together. Then we've got an annual budget release from New Zealand dollar. So I'll be interested to see how them numbers are looking. GBP, so the Bank of England Governor Bailey is speaking. So see if they're going to give us any sort of clues on monetary policy. Not that it can get much better because we do look like we're going to be heading into a recession. The Bank of Canada Governor Polos is speaking for the Canadian dollar. Always causes a stir with the Canadian dollar. Friday we've got the German preliminary GDP quarter by quarter. So of course Germany are sort of the biggest powerhouses in Europe, and therefore their sort of figures come out quite strong for the euro, and it does have an effect compared to say Italy or Spain. Then finally we've got 1:30 on Friday. We've got core retail sales and retail sales for the dollar, which are likely to be of course negative because no one can buy anything at the moment. So that's our news for this week. So keep an eye on that. Be aware, especially them Wednesday and Thursday pieces of news from Australia and New Zealand, because you're not going to be awake for them. So therefore you might sort of forget about them. Just make sure to manage your trades before. If you have a trade position, close it maybe. Of course, as we say, news doesn't create direction, it creates volatility, or news creates volatility, not direction. So anyway, back to the technical stuff. So let's start off with the dollar index, going back to what we know and love, our technical analysis as currency analysts. So DXY, our dollar index, it is above the monthly 50 MA. Prices within an uptrend, as you can see, with the higher highs and higher lows being formed. However, price looking to struggle. It looks like it's struggling to make a new higher high. Price looks to have formed a double top in this area of liquidity. This is known as the supply zone. The price action, we can see there's an inverted hammer, spinning top, or even here, inverted hammer, spinning top, inverted hammer, followed by a doji. So these gravestone dojis, these are all a sign of reversal. So I'm thinking we're going to get some dollar weakness this week, which is why I've got quite a few of the dollar, got a dollar Swiss pair I'm looking at shorts on. I've been looking at that one for a few weeks now. Yeah, so we can just see obviously within the uptrend above that 50 MA, but we're looking to sort of reverse. So that's not to say that we're going to completely reverse it. It might just come down to 50 MA, which obviously will take it down to say 200-300 pips. So the next one, so then we move on to the weekly. On the weekly, we can just see that we are obviously in an uptrend, as we said. However, we have broken this uptrend on the weekly. The difference here is the monthly is going to be a much bigger picture. You've got to think for every month there is 4 weekly candlesticks, so therefore it might be slightly different. However, we could see this come down in the future. So we'd sort of be looking around at 90, I think it's 94, 96 level for where that monthly trend line would have been. So we can see breakthrough, retest, made sort of this current high here. We didn't really make anything sort of new in terms of structure because we faked out of that straight away. Broke back into sort of this, sort of broken trend line in a sense, and then we closed below this liquidity this week or end of last week. So following on from sort of this inverted hammer we had here, we had this bearish engulfing, and then we've had another inverted hammer, but with a retest or retracement of the bearish engulfing. So now we're looking to sort of go down to the 50 MA, and I think we'll sort of get a nice test of this 50 MA. We've tried to break through it a couple of times now, but we failed to. However, we did equal this previous swing high low, so I'd expect this to now be the retracement, or sorry, the extension down to the downside. Then we go on to the daily. So on the daily, we can just see this wedge, and we've got this sort of trend line that's developing here. So we had this downtrend, we broke out of that, we failed to make a new high because we didn't close below the, close above the previous swing lower high. And now we can just see we're looking to break through this trend line here, this ascending trend line. So what I'm probably expecting is for price to sort of break through this, then retrace, and then come down, then retrace again, and then come to the downside. So we've obviously broken the daily 50 now, and the question is, have we had a successful retest? Well, we don't quite know yet. So we're just waiting to see, maybe we could get a retest. So let's go on the 4 hour. So on the 4 hour, you can see we had a very, very impulsive close on Friday with sort of a bearish engulfing / shooting star candlestick. So that was a 4 hour close. You can see we broke through the 50 EMA. We retested that perfectly before coming down to the downside, and then looking like we've broken this trend line. So I'm expecting probably come down to swing high low, retrace a little bit, and then break through that. So that's the DXY, just sort of zoom out there. That's sort of the DXY and dollar index, so potentially a weak dollar for this week. And I'm still looking at pairs like GBP USD to go to the downside because I just believe the pound is weaker at the moment than what the dollar is weaker, or the weakest the dollar is. So next on our watch list is, of course, gold, our second indicator. So gold, we can just see on the monthly, we are still currently below that sort of high of 1703.2. Of course, this isn't the end of the month yet. We're only sort of a third into the month. So it'll be interesting to see how we react towards this in the next few weeks. Weekly, we can just see this uptrend. We're still carrying on. However, we're not closing anywhere above that doji. For weeks now, we've been talking about this gravestone doji. Unless we get a candlestick body above it, we have not confirmed this new high. And therefore, for me, I'm still pretty bearish on this. I'm just waiting for an opportunity. And obviously, if we do see a weakened dollar and gold does increase, then that's not a problem because I'm looking at USD Swiss short. So that would mean that dollar's getting weaker, gold's getting stronger, Swiss is getting stronger, and then US dollar Swiss goes down. So on to the daily. On the daily, we can just see the trend line we spoke about last week. Price hasn't really moved since then. We've kind of made this sort of double top, now looking to make a triple top. We've had a shooting star on sort of this previous high, so that could be some sign that we could see some downside potential. We might just come down to the 50 EMA. We do also, when we go on the 4 hour, have this trend line here. So here we can just see price also come through and made sort of this double top in this 88%, and now we're back below, or we was below that 4 hour 50 EMA. Then we come back up impulsively, and now we've come straight back down, and just currently below that and below the 1703.643 level. So looking for price to sort of stay below these two key levels of the EMA and this resistance, and or support turn resistance, and then obviously test this trend line, maybe break it, retrace, and then come down to the downside. So that's gold USD. Next is oil. I'm not going to spend too much time on oil because I feel like you can't really sort of have a really good understanding of what's going on at the moment. So in the monthly, we have sort of obviously pushing up. We could just be retracing this spinning top. We are below that 50 EMA massively as well, so we are very overextended. On the weekly, obviously, we did fall down sort of minus $35 a barrel. However, last week I did put a fib on it, whereas I'm just, after sort of thinking about it, I don't really want to have that fib on there. I just don't think it's accurate. I don't think it really tells the true story. So therefore, I'm just going to leave a fib off. I'm just going to focus on price action. So price is accelerated to the upside, whether it's failing to sort of break above these highs here, and also break sort of, so just sort of around this area here, if it lets me. Yeah, so there. Oh, sorry. So it's just failing to break above this area here, and of course there, sort of I'm seeing, oh, okay, maybe we're not going to break through this. So just looking for price to sort of do something here, maybe for a double top, and then come to the downside. Daily. On the daily, we can just see that perfectly, resistance, and we're just rejecting the 50 EMA, so we faked out of that, then this shooting star, and then sort of this small bullish candle, but nothing really significant. Then on the 4 hour, you can see we had that bearish trend line we spoke about last week, if I zoom in, and you see price did fake out of that, or break out of that, sorry, and now we're forming this double top, so potentially we'll see price come back into favour, might interact with the 4 hour 50 EMA, we could break that. If we break through that, then the downside potential is looking very high and likely. So the first pair on our watch list this week is Aussie CAD, I believe. Yep, Aussie CAD. So Aussie CAD on the monthly, we can just see price is within this downtrend. We are making lower highs and lower lows. So of course these were sort of support, but we was making lower lows, and then of course we've made this new lower low down here. So looking at this monthly picture, we can just see that price is below the 50 EMA. We have now gone from this support, and we've now turned into resistance, so we've broken through. We've now formed this sort of big bullish engulfing that we had last month to finish April, and then we sort of had this spinning top that's currently forming. So maybe we're going to see price is going to reverse from here, and that's what I'd probably expect. So go into the weekly, and you can just see we are interacting with that weekly 50 EMA at the moment. And the key part here is although we have broken through, we've created this inverted hammer. And some people, you might see it as a retest. For me, I'm just wondering if this is going to be a fake out, because now we've failed to break sort of above this 0.9104 resistance level. I'm just thinking, are we going to now probably see price roll over? So we've had this inverted hammer, we've failed to break above that, we've failed to break above the resistance. Are we now going to see this move back to the downside and potentially carry on the extension? So next, we've got the daily, and on the daily, we can just see we are just sort of rejecting this level time and time again. So you can just see previous price action looking left, sort of 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, 4 touch, 5 touch, then we come close. Then now we're looking to form a double top. We can just see on the daily we've got this inverted hammer, or load of inverted hammers, which is sort of stalling. So I'd expect this to come down, so there, retrace to the 50 MA, and then come down to downside. So that's the daily. Of course, just looking for that break of the daily 50. And then on the 4 hour, we can just see another one of my amazing drawings. So we've got this trend line, we've broken through it, we've now formed this double top in a sense. And I'm looking for price to break through the 4 hour 50, retest, then break through the previous high low, then retest, and then come to the downside. So obviously this has been very corrective price action after breaking that channel. And obviously price is currently sort of just interacting with this higher high. It's not really going any higher, it's not really rejecting it, it's not really making any move to the downside. And of course, as you can see, the 4 hour 50 MA proves very, very strong support. So if we do get a break of that, I would really like to see a retest, and then I'd be happy to take a short on this. And yeah, so I say obviously we can't really place a fib on this one, on which of course I'd normally place a fib, but because we are so high, it's not going to be 88% or anything like that. It's just going to have to be a case of wait for that 4 hour 50 break, then apply the RBO and the reversal breakout strategy, apply your fib, look for say 38.2 or 50% retracement, and then come to the downside. We could even see this come lower, test the previous high low, then retrace to the 4 hour 50. Let's just see what price does. So the next pair on our watch list is Aussie New Zealand dollar. So one that I don't really trade, but I think from you guys, you've probably seen this twice from me in the last month. So I'm starting to pay a little bit more attention to it. So on the monthly, we've got a bullish engulfing for April. And then we've just seen this reject the 50 MA. Price is now sort of forming that spinning top, the same as the other Aussie pair. And we're just looking to see, are we going to roll over from here? And of course, we are sort of just on that monthly 50 MA. On the weekly, you can just see we're making these lower highs, lower lows. So we're now sort of just retracing. We could put a fib on here from, for example, here down to here, and we can just see that 88% sort of test. We've also formed this hammer. Oh, sorry, not this hammer, this shooting star. So coming on to the weekly, we can just see prices forming these lower highs and lower lows, and now we can just see that price is now broken through the weekly 50 MA. It's retraced to the 88%. And then, so this is just a case of impulse correction. We've traced at 88%. We've had a lovely shooting star. So the important part with the shooting star is I'm not bothered about the retracement, because I'm expecting a retracement. I like that. That's what I like to see. So now I've seen that, I really do like the shorts on this, and I think we'll probably come back into sort of below this weekly 50 and then carry on an extension. We've got a lot of room to run. So that's my thoughts on after the weekly. On the daily, I like this. So this is what I like to see. When I'm looking at these RBO strategies, I like to see sort of head and shoulders formation, because it's perfect, because it's that right shoulder forming to break the trend line. You've then got the left shoulder or neckline providing that support that you then bounce off to make that right shoulder. Then you get that right shoulder formation, and then you can break below. So I'd quite like to see this sort of carry on. Obviously form that right shoulder, come down to the 4 hour 50, break that, retrace, retest this sort of high here, and then come to the downside. And we've got quite a lot of room to run here as well. And then on the 4 hour, we can just see we've got these sort of the major trend line, then we've got a smaller trend line which we broke. So just applying fib high to fib low, obviously closing below the previous high, so therefore breaking the structure. We've retraced to 61.8%. Now just sitting on that 4 hour 50. So now I'd like to just see a break of this trend line, which we've now got. Look for a retracement or retest, and then come to the downside. So Aussie New Zealand, looking at the short, it looks quite nice, and now we just interact with that 4 hour 50, which is what we like to see. Next pair is Aussie US dollar. So of course this is the major pair which will guide the other two pairs alongside the Canadian dollar and the New Zealand dollar. So on the monthly, we've got this massive wick to downside as we saw. We then got that bullish candle, and that rejection again to them levels. But now we're just seeing price not really doing too much at the moment. It's just below that monthly 50 EMA as well. So going to the weekly, you can just see we've formed this sort of trend line. We've only got, say, 1 or 2 touches on it. If I just adjust this, we've only got a couple of touches on it, but we can still have it. So we've got 1 touch, obviously this is a near touch, then we've got a second touch, and now we're on it again. So you can just see that high to the low, 88% fib retracement. We got this inverted hammer last week, price hasn't closed above it, it's just sitting on that trend line and sitting on the wick, and now looking for this to roll over to the downside. So on the daily, we can just see that price has obviously now formed this sort of left shoulder, maybe head, and then sort of come up. But I think this is more of a double top, and then break that sort of neck, or yeah, sort of break the neckline of the double top, break the 50 EMA, retrace, and then come to the downside. So I think that looks pretty nice on the daily as well, and on the 4 hour it looks we have even more confirmation. So we have this 4 hour trend line, we've broken through that, retraced the retest of the trend line, 88%, and now we're just looking for that break of the 4 hour 50, touch the swing high low, retrace the 4 hour 50, and then come to the downside. So that's AUD USD, our major. So Aussie dollar looks good for the shorts, and therefore goes with our other ideas on the Aussie pairs. So the next pair on our watch list is CAD Swiss franc, one that I've been, as always, is probably always on my watch list, one of my favourite pairs to trade. So we broke through very impulsively, and now we're just seeing that retracement. On the weekly, you can just see we've retraced and made this sort of really corrective price action. Loads of spinning tops, loads of dojis, loads of wicks. And we're just currently sitting in an area of liquidity after rejecting the 50% fib last week or previous week. Price is just now currently squeezed between the all-time low, or previous all-time low should I say, and the previous low. We are currently above it, but we're not any higher than this shooting star wick. And now we're just seeing, is this a retracement? We're in this liquidity, so I expect price to probably roll over from here. On the daily, we can see we kind of got another head and shoulders, so a couple of formations. This one isn't as strong. We've got left shoulder, head to touch that 50%, and then the right shoulder just forming on that 50 EMA. So potentially, and the liquidity is looking for price to roll over from here. And obviously, we have broken through the trend line. Of course, we did come a little bit higher, but it could just have been a retest, and then look for this to roll over to the downside. And Friday did close as a spinning top, which gives us confirmation that we could be getting a reversal. And on the 4 hour, we can just see pretty similar to daily, just looking for that head and shoulders to play out. You can see price is stalling with that nice curved reversal formation. We're just looking for this to now sort of decelerate, that collection of spinning tops and dojis. It's now expecting a retracement to come, a reversal to come. So looking for a break of the 50 MA, retrace or retest, and then come to the downside. Next pair on our watch list is Euro Yen. This one looks really nice, and it's a perfect example of the sort of impulse correction on the 4 hour. So on the monthly, we can just see this sort of wedge. We broke below the wedge, then we perfectly retested in the middle, below the 50 MA, and we've now equaled the previous low. So now we're looking for that extension to the -27 and the next higher low within this uptrend. So now going to the weekly, we can just see, of course, as we sort of go more zoomed in, it does get a bit more messy. But just focus on this part here. You can see we did obviously retest that 70 or retrace that 71% and the EMA, come down impulsively. We're now below that last major low, which we haven't done before. We've now closed below it. So now looking for this to maybe retest that last major low and then come to the downside. The wick did touch the -27%, so we could get more of a retracement. On the daily, you can just see we are sitting on the 38.2% and the last major low. So that's your retest there. And of course, we have now broken below that liquidity area as well. So quite nice. We had this sort of nearly evening star. Didn't quite go because we didn't have the bearish engulf on the same side as the bullish. We then got this shooting star, and now we're just retracing really nicely to 38.2. Daily 50, we are a bit overextended. Then on the 4 hour, we can just see price making that impulse to the downside, then correctively retracing, and now on that 50 MA, on that 4 hour, 50 MA and the 38.2, and it's a really nice setup in my typical sort of textbook setup. So I think this one's going to be really nice, and you can see we have got a lot of room to run because we've broken that 90% rule on that previous trend, and now we pretty much have a lot of free space to go. So previous times we were here was back in sort of 2017. So that looks really nice for shorts. So going on to the next pair, which is Euro US dollar. Once again, not really too fussed about this pair, but of course I want to go through it because it's the most heavily traded pair. So in the monthly, we've just obviously sitting on this sort of bottom of the wedge, and we do look pretty bearish. On the weekly, sort of messy price action, but below the 1.1 level, so that's significant for me, and we're below that weekly 50 MA and still within the channel. Daily, we have this wedge that's been broken. We then retraced to the previous high, tested that, made this double top, and then we've come down to the downside. We have now sort of equaled the previous low. We've retraced to the 38.2, a lovely spinning top close on Friday, and now we're just looking for doji, and we're now just looking for this to roll over to the downside and complete that 90% rule to the start of the trend. Then on the 4 hour, you can just see impulse correction on that 50 MA, on that 38.2, textbook setup, and similar to Euro Yen, which makes sense because it's the Euro dominated pairs, and you can just see we've got that room to run down here. So next pair on our watch list is Pound Aussie, another one that's been on my watch list for a couple of weeks now. It's just about finding the right entry, and if you would have watched the video last week, I believe you would have got an entry. So price rejected to the top of the wedge and formed a bearish engulfing, price impulsively falling towards the monthly 50 MA. So you can just see we're just sort of coming towards it now. We are, however, on or breaking through the weekly 50. Something we was anticipating weeks ago. I called this when we was up here. So price impulsively broke to the downside. We then got that retracement with the spinning top. Then we got the shooting star and this big bearish engulfing. So then we retraced to the 61.8. Then got the bearish engulfing after the hammer. And you can just see that hammer was sort of the retracement of the weekly 50. And then we've now broken through that. And you can see here we have just broken through it. And now looking for that extension to the minus 27%. And this is a perfect example of, is it a retracement or is it a reversal? And this in case we have a retracement. So on the daily, you can just see this is where you could have got the entry. So obviously last week we would have been around here. We got that retracement to the retest of the trend line and the 50 MA. Then we've come down to the previous low, and now we're just looking to now go to minus 27%, which is in line with the previous higher low. So now we're just looking to continue this. And on the 4 hour, we can just see we have got this sort of other trend line that we can look at from here, and because of how messy price action is and how much price action there is, we can't really quite zoom in, but you can see price come down, retraced to the I think it's the 61.8, yeah, 61.8%, in line with this key level, and then we're just rolling over to the downside and back below that 4 hour impulsively. So just try and catch the retracement on this. And the next sort of high low is down here, and that's another minus 27%. So you can't really zoom in too much, but you'll see what I mean. So the next pair is Pound Yen. It's another one that is featured quite a lot. So monthly evening start below the 170.500 level, 147.500. We then saw that massive sort of spike a couple of months ago, and now we're just sort of consolidating on the weekly. You can just see that trend line's been broken. We then broke through, made a spinning top with a small retracement. Then we've impulsively broke down, retraced to the golden pocket, and now we're just looking to roll back over to the downside and test this higher low again. Now that we've had an initial test, now looking for it to test it again. On the daily, we can just see higher to low, 50% fib, 50 EMA on the daily, so maybe slightly higher, and then we'll roll over. Or we have already done sort of this double top formation, or potentially head and shoulders, left shoulder here, head, and then right shoulder. And on the 4 hour, you can just see we get this smaller structure that's broken. We've come down impulsively, broken the next new high low, broken the start of the trend here, and now we've retraced to the 38.2 and the 4 hour 50 MA, which has been a theme throughout this video. And now we're looking for this to roll over to the downside. And as I said last week, I'd expect it to come to the 133.643, and it did do that. And then it sort of come back down. So really nice setup there. Next one is GBP USD, another one I've been talking about for weeks, as it looks more like we're going to go into a recession, and even though the dollar's weak, the pound looks much weaker. So price below that monthly 50, we had that evening star, we had that big test to make the all-time low, and now we're just consolidating around that 1.25 key level. On the weekly, we've impulsively come down, retraced to the 61.8%, retraced this area of liquidity, and on the 1.25, we are still below it at the moment. And obviously for us Brits, it is quite concerning because the pound looks like getting weaker right when the dollar looks very weak as well. So we had the weekly inverted hammer, and then looks to be a hanging man. The reason I say it's hanging man, not a hammer, is because it's retested that resistance, and because it's resistance, we look more for a hanging man. On the daily, you can just see that head and shoulders playing out as we said last week. We had that sort of touch of the third touch of the trend line. We had that right shoulder, 61.8%, daily 50 MA. Then we've retraced that, and now we're looking for that break, retest of the neckline, and then all the way back to the downside, which we've anticipated for absolute weeks now. On the 4 hour, you can just see the channel that was broken, formed this double top. Then we've come through, broken the 50 EMA, retraced to the 50% and the 4 hour 50 EMA, and now we're looking for that to roll over to the downside. And that's how we can sort of have these smaller structures within these bigger structures. Then I believe this is the final pair I watched this yet. So USD Swiss franc. So on the monthly, another one I was looking at for a lot of last week. So this pitchfork, what looks to be a pitchfork, 50 EMA, just currently on the spinning top at the moment. It's priced indecisive. Weekly, another test of this 50 EMA. Like, there's been what, several, probably, yeah, 6 or 7 to be fair, tests of this 50 EMA, and price is just slowly coming down further. We did have this sort of false morning star that was attempted, and then we had this bearish engulfing. And now we've sort of seen a retracement of that. So hopefully now we might see that break of this sort of trend line and then retest and then come down to go further than that previous low that we formed down here within that area of liquidity for that extension. So that looks really nice on the weekly. On the daily, we can just see this wedge that was broken. We've then got this sort of triple top or even quadruple top potentially on at 71%, which is looking for price now after the shooting star just to break back through the daily 50 EMA and then come to the downside. And finally on the 4 hour, you can just see, if I zoom out, yeah, we have sort of got this quadruple top as I said, and then you see another touch here of this liquidity, 88%, and we're just looking for price to now extend to the downside. This would be quite a nice trade if you manage to catch it. That is the watch list for this week. Of course, I will try and keep you guys updated as possible with my funded traders process and sort of that challenge. Well, not the challenge now as I've passed it, but in terms of my sort of progress, how I get on. For me, this isn't, say, the end of my trading. This is the start of it. This is the very beginning. This is what I want to do. I've got a lot of uni assignments and exams due this month, so hopefully after May I can start producing a lot more content for you guys. I've got a video coming out hopefully this week about psychology, and I'm sure you guys will enjoy that. So have a good week. Obviously, let me know if you need any help. If you want to get involved with RYF, if you're not already, please let me know. We've had a few guys join this weekend, and I can't wait to share more with you and the guys in the community. So have a great week. Stay safe. Keep respecting the rules, and I'll see you guys on the next video.